allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. 35 years ago, the East Coldenham School wall fell down, killing 9 kids that day, and 1 was killed the next day in a car accident. My wife was pregnant with my younger daughter at the time. She now is a teacher at East Coldenham in that, overlooking that memorial. So please be seated. For those of you who are here and don't know what happened, a tornado came through, especially you guys here, a tornado came through, blew the wall down. Who would expect 100-mile-an-hour wind and killed the children? Touching on a couple of things here. First, I'd like to thank the family who took a mass out for me on Thursday in St. Mary's. I appreciate it. The reason was they said I keep the village safe. Well, it's the board that keeps the village safe, but I appreciate that. Touching on this, several residents have contacted me. I don't know why this would change, but since the election, the presidential election, they wanted to know, was our village still a non-sanctuary village? Yes, it is, and it will remain a non-sanctuary village, and we will continue to cooperate with the federal authorities and NICE, keep our residents safe. I'm very proud of Deputy Mayor Andolsik, who put in for a $3,000 grant, and legislator Ron Feller got it. And now we have a handicap swing down at the playground. It's really cool. Touching on Veterans Day, my wife, my family, Darlene, Kevin, Randy Wilbur, the Girl Scouts, the police. It's amazing how many people were handing out flags at Veterans Corner. And it's amazing how many people did not know it was Veterans Day. And Karen and Sid Vandley, they kept the inventory of the flags. We put them in the little holes of the stop sign, so that was excellent. I also want to salute Deputy Mayor Darlene Andolsik and Tina Murphy, village clerk. They attended an administrative class in Albany, saving the village $2,500. They found a way to participate for this online free, so thank you guys. We're going to try to keep doing that. I want to acknowledge 3 members of our Department of Public Works staff. Billy, Guy, and Mike on the back of the garbage truck. They didn't see us walking. Garbage dropped on Senior Street. I don't know how it happened. It fell out of the truck. They didn't drive off. They walked around and picked up every piece of it. You don't see that. We have a good thing here. I also want to acknowledge the Anderson Group, right here on the corner of Walkhill and Charles Street. They repaired the entire sidewalk in front of the business and around the building. They put electric heating elements in there to melt the ice and snow with no charge to the village. They're also a major donator to the Montgomery Day. Thank you, Anderson Group. And businesses, if you're watching, you got maybe 2 more weeks before to get your advertisements in, because we're going to go around and we're going to welcome the new residents. So bring your stuff up here to Village Hall. We'll include it in the packet, and it'll be free advertising, and we'll welcome the new neighbors. Thank you. Building Department update, training update, and tractor parade schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
As mentioned in an earlier meeting, we were looking at just going over some of the procedures in the building department in support of our building inspector, and took on the task of doing a little research with surrounding municipalities and conversations with the building inspectors and their department personnel to see if our practices, standards, our fees and or fines were in line with what theirs were. And it seemed like we, for the size of our community and the scope of our projects, we are completely in line with their schedule of fees. So there really wasn't any need to change anything at this point. There's always room for improvement down the line, but I've spoken with the building inspector regarding that. The other aspect of that was non-compliance, which is always a difficult one. And both myself and the building inspector and the same ideology was shared amongst others, that most people in non-compliance don't understand the importance of why the reg is there. Bruce and I, as time allows, we get through the holidays, want to put together once a month, just a little snippet to share importance and support of the work he's trying to do. So if you get the knock on the door and your railings are out of compliance, or something has happened, or a permit hasn't been closed, or there's work done that wasn't approved, you'll understand why. The thought was, how did we enforce fines? Everybody I talked to said, we don't want to enforce fines. We're not in the fine business. We don't really want to upfront penalize people for non-compliance, because a lot of times they don't know. If a contractor do some work that didn't do it right, didn't complete it, or didn't understand the task, everybody said they try and they exhaust the avenue of collaborating with the person, making them understand the importance of it. And I assure you that our building inspector is on the same page. But having had that conversation, I can reassure you of that. That is his intent. Of course, if it's intentional non-compliance and it's a hazard, you do stand the risk of up to $1,000 a day fine. Part of what Bruce's complaint was, I can't find them right there, and I get it, because he's a one-man crew. They still have to go through the process of issuing a ticket, then you have to go to court. And that due process has to be there. There's really no way to short circuit that in order to get the job done without it being an unnecessary demand on his time. So as it stands, collaborate, we'll work with you, do everything we can to help you understand why it's important. That's why he's there.
If I may, sorry.
No,
I was gonna just pick up on that. Those times where Bruce and I are compelled to go to court, in fact, I have a couple of cases on tomorrow for the village, what we're really trying to do is get compliance. We're not running after people and interested in assessing fines. I mean, there's fines in the code for everything. There's a fine, $250 a week or $100 a day for whatever. That's not really the goal. If somebody has, for example, there's a pool that's not been serviced and it's got stagnant water in it, we're more interested, rather than the fine, of the person trying to take the pool down. So it doesn't become more of a nuisance to the neighbors and to the village. So what we try and do in the first instance is get the people into court when it goes that far, and we say, look, take care of this. If you take care of this in the next 2 weeks, 30 days, whatever it might be, we're not looking for fines. We want you to just get the thing straightened out to the satisfaction of our building inspector. That's the first goal. If people thumb their nose or they don't come to court, then we're going to ask for fines, because that's what it's there for as a last resort. So just piggybacking on what you said, that's the intent of what we're trying to do to make life better around here without banging people over the head unless it becomes necessary. Thank you.
Years ago, when there was like a lapse in a turnover in the building department at the town level, they set a specific amount of time, like 6 months, and if you put in for any, if you know you don't have permits for certain things, if you put in for them before such and such a date, there would be no fine assessed at all. You just had to pay the going rate for that permit by a certain date, and then after that there would be a fine. So it did kind of square a lot of people up.
Well, the standard procedure is you pull a building permit and it has a time period, usually a year. If the work isn't done, you extend the permit. If you work beyond that permit, you're still required to renew it. And if you let it expire and you don't resolve the issues, then you don't get the sign off, the C of O, which leads to another issue and eventually down the road. But I think the most important thing, I gotta believe in talking about this, most everybody, once they understand the importance of it, the value of compliance is far more than a fine. Because think about it, we're gonna have rain, we're gonna get snow behind it. Let's just say you had a set of stairs that were made that were non-compliant, you didn't have the railing correct, which can be a real sticking point. Your delivery man comes and falls down an icy set of stairs without a railing. Nobody wants to go down that road, and we don't think about it, especially right now. And that sort of thing, and I would encourage you, if you run into this with Bruce, ask for the reason why. He's very good about explaining why certain things have to be done. A case in point, if I can deviate for 1 second. It used to be that when you had an island in your kitchen, you had to have an outlet in the side of it, because they didn't want you running an extension cord from the countertop over to your popcorn maker or your blender, because kids running through would snag it and pull it off. Well, they just changed it this year. You can't have an outlet in the side of your island anymore. It has to be in the top. And I didn't understand that, like the looks I'm getting from you folks. And this is just an example to help people understand. The reason why is there was a child in a wheelchair that was rolling by the island and pulled a deep fryer off the top of the counter onto the child. And they recognized at that point that there was a need for a change. So it's little things like that when you look at it and go, are you kidding me? Because I know I've been there. And when you get that explanation, that really helps you have a deeper understanding of why, that's all. But the building department seems to be in good shape at this point.
I know one of the cases you got going on, I was on top of is the green pool.
Yeah.
We're
working on
Yeah.
And we're trying to get it done without penalizing folks, there's an estate involved, and we'll get there.
And, try to break more on.
Yeah, I just have one more, and I apologize for dominating this section. As promised, when the board approved that I could attend the training in Saratoga, the NICOM training, that I'd come back with a little tidbit of information for the board. The one in particular I chose for tonight was a session covering the First Amendment rights regarding government, political, public comment, which we'll get more into when we decide to down the road of meeting rules, but also religious speech and social media posts. The social media post is especially interesting because it seems like that technology has far outpaced any kind of legislation or guidelines or rules. But we learned in the class that there's actually ongoing litigation now from a case, I believe, in Minnesota, where a city official maintained a personal Facebook page in which he made comments about his family, but also included comments about his official public role. A city resident went on and made a comment on the page which was mildly derogatory, so he deleted it. He then got sued by the resident because the resident claimed that the deletion of his posts were a violation of his First Amendment rights. And initially, I believe he won, but then, or was sidelined. It's been revisited. You can look online. It's linked versus freed. But a lot of interesting things have come out of it. Because what happens is it blurs the line between personal and official. And the question as to whether or not a Facebook page is a public forum, and therefore you cannot censor it by deleting or blocking. We all know that during the presidential administration 6-7 years ago, that with Twitter this was visited as well as to whether or not people could be blocked from commenting, and that still is being litigated. But here's some guidelines to boil it down for you. That from that initial court ruling, they decided that it would be a good practice to maintain separate accounts. Official, campaign, and personal, clearly delineated. Personal accounts, if a municipal topic is being discussed, it should be clearly prefaced by stating that the comments on there are an opinion and are not authorized or made in behalf of the municipality. So there isn't that confusion of official, personal, or you get into this quasi-official page. Just think about it. People need to know where the information comes from. And as far as the village, any accurate or timely or unbiased information regarding the village or information that needs to be disseminated or archived can always be found at thevillageofmontgomery.org. And that is the official portal of any information that's needed. And we know that Member Panera was working diligently to update all of that and make it a little bit more accessible. So he's not here tonight to add to that, but I'm sure next time he will.
He had a family emergency, he called me the last minute, so it's...
So, as a board, it's, the takeaway from that is if we are using social media, be careful about it so you don't get yourself or the board in any kind of litigation.
That's all. What did break?
I'm sorry?
Track break.
What?
Oh.
We're on training, so we don't bounce around too many times and get too far off. You had suggested, and then one of the residents suggested a couple months ago as well about the possibility of adding a like training line to the budget, making it specific, and maybe like some ideas of how we can go about who gets to go when. You had talked about it back in August, and then Sophia asked about keeping a log of who goes to what training so that not one person is, going all the time and who's, not doing any training and that kind of stuff at the October meeting. So I don't know if we can revisit that discussion about, before we get into budget meetings, and what that would entail.
I think it's a little out of scope right now, but I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's always good to have a plan, and it's always good to budget, so that everybody at the beginning of the year knows what the expectations are. And we have more than just this board that needs to be included in that. There's the planning board, zoning board, I don't know if we provide, or it's mandatory training for any of the other boards. Is it? No?
Planning board's the only one that has anything that has to be done in a certain amount of time, right?
Zoning.
Zoning board is 4 hours a year.
The ZBA too.
Yes. Okay, but I would say, I would recommend bringing that up, and if you have thoughts on a plan. And finally, I'm sorry I'm long-winded, the tractor parade. It's on the website, it will be updated. We're looking for donations either at Village Hall the day of or on the parade route. The final unit in the parade will have a bin for food pantry, Humane Society, and Toys for Tots. So it kind of covers the array of what people may feel generous in giving. And if not, for the parade, you can drop it off downtown the day of. The route, I'll go through quickly. We're gonna leave from, skip this old rail yard down there, go up and go through Tompkins Loop. Come back out and proceed over, go through the Purple Heart Loop, come out, do a loop through Presidential Heights, go down Railroad Avenue into up Sycamore and Wavy Willow, through there. What is that, Rolling Meadows?
Rolling Meadows.
Yeah, thank you. And then back down Wallkill and try to find parking out here along Anderson and the Fire Museum. Gonna try to leave them illuminated and be here before the tree is lit so we can partake in some of the festivities. So hope to see everybody there. Do a nice little holiday event. Hopefully we get some nice weather, cooler, no rain. But thank you.
Thank you. New business, Marshall Jacobus, do you want to have one?
Yeah, with regard to the food bank, there was discussion of whether they needed to come before this board to discuss potential hardship waiver application from the moratorium. Since that time, planning board has issued a negative declaration under seeker for the amended site plan project and the lot line change that they need. So at this time, because they've been issued a neg deck and it's been approved by the planning board, that takes them within one of the exceptions to the moratorium, which means they don't need a hardship, so they can proceed right now. So there's no need for hardship. As I explained, I believe I sent an email to the board the other day on this. So that agenda item is not necessary at this time.
All right, thank you, Ron. Accept the resignation of Corey Delarosa from the Board of Ethics effective November 4th, 2024. Make a motion.
I'll make it.
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Appoint Bruce Yankowitz Senior to the Board of Ethics effective November 19th, 2024. Make a motion.
I'll make it.
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Along those lines, Mr. Mayor, at this point, there have been discussions about amending the code to take out the requirement that an employee be on the ethics board, but based on the appointment of Mr. Yankowitz, I don't know if the board feels the need to proceed with that local law, because the ethics board can now proceed with their business without any amendments to the code.
Thank you.
And is the ethics board been made aware of this and their attorney so they can proceed with their meetings?
Well, now that the appointment's made, we can certainly tell them tomorrow night,
Okay.
for sure.
Adopt a resolution for FY 2026 for the County of Orange to provide exemptions from the county taxation on SBL 28-1-63 of real property located in the town of Montgomery for use of the village water system. Make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Discussion, please. Just so the public is aware, this is something that's done every year. This parcel of property is owned by the village. It's located north of Dunn Road. It's 1.8 acres. And what we have to do is, because when a property is used for water system purposes, the county, you have to ask the county to have the legislature pass a motion so the property will be also exempt from county taxes. We do this in all manner of municipalities. Port Jervis has a bunch of property in Deer Park, for example, that's part of the city's water system. So they pass a resolution every year to make sure they don't get a bill from the county for tax, bill from the county for county taxes. So this is exactly what the board's doing tonight for this small piece of property.
Thank you. Make a motion?
It's motion and second was made.
Seconded, we need to vote.
Just need a vote.
Make a motion?
No, just a vote.
Second.
All in favor?
We have
All
a
in
vote.
favor? Okay. Carrie?
Aye.
Aye. You ready for it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Events. The village office will be closed Thursday and Friday, November 28th and 29th, in the observance of Thanksgiving. Wally's Airport Inn does this every year. Will hold its annual Toys for Tots drive on Sunday, December 1st, from 2 to 9. They're great. Last year, I think they brought 14 boxes to the train on the 15th. And we had ROTC, we had the Boy Scouts, we had everybody putting it on the boxcar. It was awesome. Yes.
Mike, do you know, do they have any plans for outdoor activity at all this year? Because I know last year a bunch of us went down and couldn't even get in the door. And it's nice to see the place back. I was just wondering if they were,
I don't know, but I will be meeting with them soon.
a lot of food. The food was fantastic, but it was shoulder to shoulder in there. It was nice to see. But,
It was great. It
Yeah.
was great.
And it's the Charles family that puts that together every year at the airport. They do a lot of work for that.
Okay, that's it. Request to meet with the board, discussion limited to 3 minutes. Stacy Hyman, you're first, please. State your name and address for the record. please.
Hi, Stacy Hillman, East Searsville Road, Montgomery.
You're in town.
Town, yep.
Mhm.
Question, I'm just following up, maybe you know this. The meeting that was upstairs, the one time that we had to stop and move down here, remember? The letter that Randy was waving around, whatever happened with that? We were requesting to get bank statements from the advisory board. Did we ever do that? Did you ever get them?
That's not something I'm going to discuss right now,
Okay,
respectfully. That's
Okay.
something that's between the board and myself.
okay. Can we follow up at another date with that?
Like I said, that is a matter between myself and the board right now. If there's a need to have anything public, we will do so.
Okay. Second part, then you might not be able to answer it. When the advisory board was released of their contract, there was $134,000 in their account.
They are a separate entity.
I understand.
Okay, that's not something that's a
understand.
concern of this board.
My concern as a taxpayer is village and town taxpayers' money was given to them by the town and the village with the sole purpose every year to go towards the seniors. Now that they're not doing anything for the Village of Montgomery Senior Center, and we're doing it in-house, is anybody going back to try to get the money back so it can be used for its purpose?
Again, that's a matter for myself to discuss with them.
So they could just donate all that to the ASPCA if they want
I
to?
answered your question as best I can.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. James Kieran, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Do you want to stand or sit?
hold on, 1 second. Okay.
I like that.
I didn't get my training on
No,
this,
it's good.
so.
I'm gonna try to fit the 3 minutes. I know what happens. So I'm gonna try.
All right, you're up.
Please do.
Yes, a couple of James Kiernan, Village of Montgomery. So a couple of concerns and questions quickly. Thank you. First, water concerns. We're still under drought conditions. Fires continue in our area. Do we need to send a phone blast announcement to residents, keeping them up to date on this issue? There is growing concern and we don't want to be caught short with the water. Thank you. In the same sense, please let's continue to keep our eye on the budget. We've had several expenditures, some foreseen, some unforeseen. I mean, including that dead-end investigation. There's some maintenance, upkeep, and refurbishing of the caboose that Mike wants. I know it's free, but we are going to eventually have to, I hope, invest in something with that. And we have raises that we gave to several village employees, which I'm sure they deserve it. I'm happy for that. But we all know, you know, what financial condition Mayor Brescia left us in, right? How he would often use Peter to pay Paul, right? So we borrow some funds from one fund, use it for the other fund. Well, that doesn't last forever. So as you promised raises and projects, please keep an eye on the taxpayers' money, our money. Like my wife wanting a car and me asking her how much it is and her saying, don't worry about it. Don't you trust me? Well, yeah, we do. But planning how to pay for something, making sure we can afford it, budgeting accordingly, is good common sense. ADA compliance, are we ever going to admit to ourselves that these meetings need to be held at the senior center to be legally compliant? And why are you resistant to this? We're shaking our heads on this one. Thank you very much for the YouTube streaming, it's an excellent idea. The holiday events sound awesome, I am willing to help, please let me know what I can do to help you with that. How the mayor and trustees work with one another is crucial. Now several trustees have come up to me to speak to me that they would feel more comfortable in this work environment if there could be mutual respect, prompt responses, and acknowledgements in emails and phone calls, and proper decorum in front of the cameras and us, as well as behind the scenes. I'm sure even the board lawyer knows that it's important to have a certain decorum. It's important not to have anyone feel harassed, anyone feel uncomfortable in their work environment, and several trustees have told me it can get uncomfortable at times. So I'm asking you, please, I know you don't always like each other, but we need you to work together cohesively and communicate with each other. Like it or not, you're our team that represents us, and we need you to win for us. So we're rooting for you, but we need you to work together well. And finally, please, if we can, keep focused on the weight of trucks that are using our local streets that have weight limits. I know people continue to complain about some heavier trucks going down Union Avenue, windows get shaken, and we just don't want to wish any more house on Union Street to be shaken or disturbed. Thank you.
Ooh, on the button.
That's not bad.
One thing
Thank you.
folks, one thing I'd like to mention especially is we're so dry, with fires. You gotta watch this. I was in Kentucky and West Virginia the other day. The mountains are all burning, so it's not just here. I mean, yeah, Weaver Street goes up or all over by Chandler. What are we gonna do? So please, just watch these cigarette butts. Supposedly there was a fire yesterday.
Yes,
Fire
big one.
department.
So you gotta watch it, man. You gotta watch it. Other than that, that's it. I make a motion to adjourn. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. When are we going out to welcome new residents? Is there a date yet?
We don't have a date yet.
Okay. There's a blood drive supposed to be at the senior center on December 5th, because we only have a meeting right before that. I just wanted to say that, if anybody's interested, it's all
We
day
did
at the
mention
senior
it in the
center.
past. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Kevin.
December 5th on the blood drive?
So it says Thursday, December 5th, I have to look, because that's not the right
First,
date.
second,
Or
third,
it
that
says
is
Tuesday-
right.
It says Tuesday, December 5th,
It's
so I don't know.
Thursday.
Thursday.
Randy, who's running that?
The blood drive.
No, who's running that?
Definitely Thursday.
Lori Chapman,
No, I mean, like, what organization?
the New York, what is it, why can't?
Cause I know you got
What is it? Yeah.
Because they
Okay.
called me for blood and they never mentioned that.
Yeah, there's one down at the senior
Okay.
center. I have the list of the stuff that we have to dedicate, we have to do that in a meeting from Medline. Should I do that now?
Which items?
That we've already had,
Yeah?
should I do that now?
Can you send it to me so I can just write it up? So we have a full record of it.
And can I ask why the meeting it wasn't at the senior center and when we will be having it at the senior center and what the parameters are of that?
Well, the reason is because we have to heat that place. Tomorrow, the district attorney's coming and he's talking to the seniors. So, we're not overcrowded here. We have to heat it by one person.
We're one over right
Yeah.
now.
Okay, well, one person could wait outside. I mean, I'm not gonna heat the whole senior center at night, and everything like that.
Also, I had asked who else applied for the positions that were just hired, and I was told that I am not required to be told.
Wow.
So is that I'm not allowed to know because there's a specific selection committee, or they just don't have to share that information?
What did you say?
They don't have to share that information with me. So does that mean I'm not allowed to be told, or they don't have to? If they said they don't have to, I'd like to formally request it then, which I already did.
I'll have to confer with my current mayor as well.
Um, what is the protocol for addressing the board? Because we have a new procedure, but is it written anywhere about asking to be on the agenda the week before? And if you adhere to it, if you don't adhere to that, what are the constraints and warning processes? Because it was not clear. So can we make it clear while we have people watching and sitting here? How do you get on the agenda and how will you get removed from the agenda?
What is the procedure? What mechanism are we using for people to get on the
On
agenda?
the phone.
On the phone, on the contact form, on the.
Thing on the webpage.
Email.
Usually we get a copy of the email that you sent in and a request to be on the board, so
Come to the.
James, how did you
window
get on
and
the
speak
agenda?
about
I think the point is that it would be good to have a formal.
James, how did you get
I
on the
believe
agenda?
you, I'm answering your question, thank you, Mike. I believe what she is saying is that it should be on.
Well, I know what she's saying.
I believe you, I want to finish my sentence, thank you.
okay.
I think what she is saying that it would be good to have a formal paper stating it. How I get on the agenda is I call usually and talk to my friend here and ask.
So you
But
can
I
call or
think-
email,
Yes,
On
but I think it
Wednesday
wouldn't
and
hurt to
midnight.
have it written. I think it's what you're saying.
Thursday
It's not a
and
big
midnight.
deal. Yeah.
We,
But that's fine.
I've had nobody have the problem getting on the agenda.
Well, this week, you saw that, we resolved that, it's all right.
He was taking a
So we'll put something on the,
That would be great.
Well, you can do it.
And then go back on.
could I recommend you do it?
all right, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to create a written policy that's on the website of how you get on the agenda, what the cutoff is, and how you will be removed from the agenda if you do not adhere to the
Yes.
meetings, which
There you
brings
go.
me to my next motion. Actually, wait, I gotta wait.
Can I make a recommendation that we roll this in with the rules that we are
Yeah.
working on, once the agenda dies down? I think they would dovetail nicely together.
So when will we put
Stacy was not knowing.
decorum and expectations on the agenda, and when should I send that to, do I send that to you, to Will, who's heading up that, like grouping everything together
I
cohesively?
provided a draft.
Yeah, I have that.
When I have comments, I'll make adjustments and the board can vote on it at the next meeting if you wish.
Okay. And then also I did attend, I attended in person the town budget meeting and then, watched one of them that was streamed subsequently. And it was an interesting meeting. I don't know, there was a couple of you there for sure that I recall. And I know some people watched it, but it was a heavy meeting where they proposed a rather large tax increase, which also affects us as village residents. So I'm wondering what the feedback is from the village board on that, because it's a large tax increase. That being said, it was made an easier pill to swallow by the way that everyone was able to interact. They put together an entire slideshow, they presented it well, people were allowed to ask questions in real time and get real answers. At no point did they get out of hand, at no point did they get accusatory or derogatory in any way. And these were people that were asking questions about a 20% proposed tax increase, which is huge. So, there's also the, not creation of, from my understanding, but usage and funding of a DA fund, which is for culverts and other, road work that has to be done, but it's for the villages to put into, and there's also some pushback on that, because that's our village tax dollars going into another fund at the town. So there was some discussion on that as well, but everyone in the audience got the printout of the slideshow, and I think it was inclusive, I think it was very informational, and then it explained exactly how we got here, what we're gonna do about it, and why, and what the alternatives are. And I believe I've talked a lot about that in April of last year, and so I would like to propose that we mimic this procedure as we go into budget times.
I'd also suggest that we don't propose a 19% increase on the
Yeah.
rest of the time. First and foremost,
I have that.
we pay enough. The only thing my only takeaway when I heard this rumor last week was, and I'll speak as a resident, with the amount of warehouses and the thoughtful planning that went into those and had minimal impact on our village and the town, excuse my French, where the hell is that money going? Okay? And then if Steve's watching, feel free to call me, Steve. I'd like to provide the village residents with an answer, because we look at it, we tolerate the inconvenience, we appreciate having them as neighbors and contributing to our tax base. But where the hell is that money going? And what kind of hole would we be in if they weren't there?
Good.
Tax abatements for the
IDA, that's
idea.
right. Simple. IDA.
Not in its entirety, that's too simple an answer. They're still paying, Don, in all respects, they're still paying.
All right.
But enough, I'm sorry.
The other thing I would like to do in keeping with the budget and compliance stuff is I would like to propose adding a 15-minute policy review to each meeting from January to April annually to go over a policy. The Village of Walden does something similar for a couple of months every year, and then it coincides with their reorganization meeting in April, so that everything is checked over. Some things are required to be checked over annually, some policies, some are not, but it's good practice along with the employee handbook and any other things that are not being updated just because they fall by the wayside. But they found that if you add 15 minutes to a couple months worth of meetings, just to go over everything, see if anything needs to be tweaked, it's a self-audit, and then it's done when you're doing the reorg meeting, so everything is done at the same time and you're compliant as
You
well.
mean after the meetings?
You can do before, after, or during.
I think that's a good idea.
And.
Do we have a list of the items that you're referring to, that, some things that need to be updated or looked at? Do you
So
have a
there's
list?
5, yeah, that like have to be, and they're in an email I sent you as when I came back from training. There's 5 specifically that have to be updated every single year, and then the rest is just, you're doing it, so you might as well do it. Because they had found a couple last year in Walden that were just haphazardly had not been updated, and then were kind of moot points. I think that's it. That's it.
And just
Guys, thank you for showing up. Appreciate it. 3 high school guys here that to be here for school. And, appreciate it. One wants to be a teacher, one wants to be, you guys just know what you want to do.
And chemistry at some point in the year.
Nice.
Proud of you guys.
Yeah.
All right, make a motion to adjourn. Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? One second, what?
And I'll show everyone a happy.
Oh, everyone happy Thanksgiving. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.